do watching that game, I would say that offensively, as much as anything else, we didn't let the game continue to come to us the way that it needed to. And a couple times, when you got a good help defensive team like that, that also puts good ball pressure on, you got to keep them moving. And a couple times we didn't do that. And when we got good reversals, played through the lane, we were good. Even when we missed, we got good shots. But bottom line is you've got to keep the ball moving, and especially with the way we play offense, and that creates more offensive rebound opportunities for us. Defensively, we defended well enough to win. We didn't rebound well enough to win. And a couple times the pressure on the ball wasn't what it needed to be and where it got inside. And a couple times when we're trying to circle up our coverages inside, because you can't, with our size, you can't just guard those guys one way. You can't just guard them three-quarter or with a front or play behind. And if you get into a big post-double situation, now you're giving them not only open threes, which we didn't give them much of, obviously with the percentages the way they were, but you're giving them cuts to the basket. And that's, the layups beat you. And you don't want to give up post-up easy baskets and layups. And a couple of times we gave up a couple of those. Looking back at the film, the play where John Octius got the dunk, I mean, it's either got to be a block or a charge. And I didn't have as good a view of that during the game. Colin was in position. So it's either got to be a three-point play or you got to wave the basket off. And I wish that one would have been different. But bottom line is we just didn't do as many things as we needed to do. Our screening wasn't as good outside of Troy. Troy did a very good job screening, and hence he was open a lot more. We need to get better at that. That's something Hunter needs to improve upon quickly again, and that's the game rhythm. I think you asked the question about what it's going to take for him to get back into it. Simple things like that are a huge part of that. And as far as Rutgers, dangerous team. I've coached in that building, and when they've got it going in there, it is very, very hard to play. It's an excellent home court for them. They're a very good team. They're the same team that was in here a couple weeks ago. You don't play their record, you don't play their percentages, you play the players. And we had a very tight game with them a couple weeks back. They've been in some very close games. They've also had some tough losses. But they can score. They're more at full strength than they were when we played them the first time, with more depth, more bodies, more people that are contributing for them. And we're going to have to play extremely well. Yesterday was spent making sure that we reviewed the film and getting into Rutgers later on, but really getting back to making sure our speed game is where it needs to be, in the half court and in the full court, and which increases our defensive pressure. Because again, it wasn't as much. The post-ups are a part of it. The ball pressure we needed to have on the ball to make it harder to get in so we could circle up the post were a little more crucial. That's what hurt us a little bit defensively. But love their attitude. They're lifting right now. We'll practice, and we'll keep our fingers crossed to get out of here with an on-time departure and a smooth landing. Go ahead.
It seems like, the trip to Maryland, all things considered, the loss aside, it was a pretty encouraging game. Do you feel like with this road swing coming up, this team's ready to kind of do some things?
I don't think like that, Mike. I mean, I think you just can't. You got to stay in the day. I mean, we're not getting into Northwest. I've watched Northwestern, but we're not doing anything with Northwestern until we get back. And you can't help but see those teams when you're watching other teams. And the same thing with our players. They see them. But it's all about making sure. We got to make sure our execution is right now. We got to make sure our transition defense is right. We got to make sure we really understand Rutgers personnel. So it's not about getting ahead of yourself. And I hope I never get distracted enough as a coach or a coaching staff, or allow a team to get distracted enough to think ahead. It's got to be where you're at that point. And certainly the schedule, who you play, but you got to stay right where you need to be. And that right now is to make sure that we're ready to play tomorrow in the best possible way.
Hunter said, I guess, that the injury is really not a concern for him now. It's just conditioning, getting back to that game speed and that game comfort. Do you feel as a coach that he is, I guess, at a point where you can start to push him more physically, mentally? You're not worried, I guess, about keeping the knee coming along?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he has to. Yeah, we have to. He has to push himself even harder and sustain it. That's the big thing. It's got to be sustainability right now, and really handle the simple things. They're not simple. They're hard to do because there's physical contact, but the things that you do a lot: the screening, the movement, the being in position defensively. His conditioning is not where it needs to be yet, but that's not anybody's fault. That's the way that it is, because he literally was just shooting free throws. There wasn't a lot of stuff you could do, with his cardiovascular lower body. There's certainly some upper body things, but not with his lower body because of the knee. So that'll come back, and it'll help us. And I think he saw in film, and I think he knows he's capable of more.
What, I guess just to follow up on that, he's had both pre and post injury kind of these stretches where he'll rebound the ball really well or score 6, 8, 10 quick points. What's the key for him, I guess, to be able to go out of a game, come back in, sustain that impact, or sustain it through timeouts or that kind of thing, and turn, I guess, short spurts of really good play into full games?
Just stay consistent with his athleticism, consistent with his offensive and defensive stance, consistent with his awareness of what he needs to do defensively, and then offensively continue to move him. He's a movement guy, and at the same time we can go to him in the post more. But it really, for the most part, it's staying out of foul trouble and continuing to be able to play those kind of stretches. And maybe it's got to go back a little bit to the way it was at the beginning, where it's a little bit more that hockey style, where the spurts that they're in are shorter, and you get that bigger burst. But you also got to have good cardiovascular condition to do that. So it just remains to be seen. Go ahead.
Do you see Rutgers change at all, or has Rutgers changed at all since the last time he played them? I guess from like a game plan standpoint. At all?
No, they're still running their offense. They're a rhythm team, and E2 really came out and shot well against us, and I think he's continued to play well. They got Mike Williams back, so no, they're running their offense, and Miles Mack can break you down. He can break a defense down. He can break a defender down, and they want to drive the ball, but they're running their offense crisp. And really against Iowa made shots. They missed some shots. There was some transition involved, but they attacked their zone well. Iowa changed defenses. They did good things. They just didn't make as many shots, and they got down because Iowa got the transition game going fairly early. But to me, I mean, they're a good team. Everybody in this league is. I
know you're bigger on who finishes rather than who starts, but it's safe to say Hunter starts this week?
I'm not sure right now on that. So it would be, I'm not as. We didn't really go that way. We broke up the teams yesterday to make it more competitive and full court, so it wasn't a starting lineup versus second lineup or anything like that at all yesterday. So truly, I'm not sure on that yet.
Are these Sunday night or Sunday evening games at all hard to adjust to?
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, you've got to do a little more creativity for 9 o'clock games, but no. Other than that, I mean, it's. You just adjust your schedule, whether it's noon or whether it's 9 o'clock. You just adjust your schedule, and at this time of year, they're pretty much used to anything.
Yeah, I guess just to follow up on that, I guess more curiosity than anything else. Do players and coaches kind of get into a rhythm where they don't think in terms of weeks, they just think in terms of games?
I think early on you get in terms of more segments, but not now. Not now. It's really more. There's got to be a great balance for us of skill development, all right, and making sure that we're not getting away from any of that, and making sure that the system is right with our execution and what we've got to get done there. And at the same time, there's always specifics to the game. And because we're such a game plan defensive team and game plan offensive team to a degree, but not nearly as much as defense. So there's really not a lot of time to think about other things than that. Earlier in the season, when you're really trying to get good at different things,